everyone. This is Erin, and you are listening to Stop Talking About Fat Loss. We are talking today about macros, calorie deficits, and how to create the correct nutrition plan for your goals. We're also going to go into tips and tricks when your calorie deficit isn't working and when you should take a break from dieting to create a better outcome for what you want to achieve. I'm here again with Chris and Sarah.
What's up?
Hi.
We gotta get better
hoping
with some sort of intro there.
Yeah.
We'll do it. It'll be fine.
Sarah and I need to think of something.
So it's all good.
This
This is
Staring
only
blankly.
episode. This is only episode 2. We're gonna get there. Sarah, would you mind sharing with everybody just some basic info on macros in just a few minutes?
Absolutely. So macros are, that's just a shortened term for macronutrients. Everything you eat is kind of split up into macronutrients and micronutrients. And those three main ones that we really like to look at here at 8 Wellness Collective, and just when starting to look at creating a healthier food environment for people, we're going to take a peek at three basic macronutrients that are really, really important for not only improving health but changing your body composition, which is what a lot of people are out there looking to do. But the first thing, and arguably the most important, is protein. So these are the actual literal building blocks of your body. Your muscles, your tendons, everything is built from protein. So it's really, really important that that is something that we bring up in general to help your body build and make body composition change possible. Protein is going to be super duper important keeping your strength, and it also is the magical macronutrient that helps you feel full. So when you start to introduce more protein into your diet, you're going to notice that your meals keep you fuller for longer because you are just naturally consuming a little bit more lean protein. It's really where we like to start with our clients. Carbs and fats are the other two macronutrients that we are going to start looking at. And what's really interesting is that we don't really dive super deep into these because a lot of people, just within this general space go, I guess I kind of want to lose a few pounds. And the first thing that they do is start to go low fat, or they cut their carbs. But an ideal balanced macronutrient diet has these kind of working in tandem with each other. Carbs are going to be really, really important for keeping your energy up. It's actually ideal for your body to choose carbohydrates to create your energy. So if you are out there, you're constantly feeling a midday slump, constantly finding new methods to get caffeine into your system, energy into your system, and you've done like low carb diets before, you might just need a few more carbs. Bring those up to help balance your diet out. And then fats are really important as well. Fats are actually what help keep your brain functioning and communicating with the rest of your body pretty smoothly. The problem with people taking fat out of their diet completely, your brain starts to function a little bit slower. Your thyroid functions a little bit slower. When these things are off balance, this is when you start to experience fat loss resistance because your macronutrients are just not super balanced. But those are kind of going to be the main three things that not only fuel your health and fuel your ability to create body composition change, but they're going to help aid some of those minuscule symptoms that you are so frazzled by during the week. Feeling hungry, losing energy, brain fog. Once we balance these macronutrients back out, you're going to notice that all of these symptoms start to dissipate and you start to feel a little bit better.
And so there's a fourth macronutrient, quote unquote, and it's alcohol. Chris, in your opinion, or can you speak on alcohol and what that does in the body?
Yeah, nothing good.
It's delicious, but
it is delicious. So it tastes good. There's the good thing. And so basically alcohol is a toxin. So the easiest way to think about what alcohol is going to do, one, it's going to give you 7 calories per gram. So compared to the other macronutrients, protein and carbs are going to be 4 calories per gram. Fat's going to be 9 calories per gram. So it's somewhere in between. But it's not calorie free. So if you look on a nutrition label for a bottle of wine, you're like, oh, there's only 2 carbs. Why is there 120 calories in this. It's from the alcohol. Because it is an alcohol, or because it's a toxin for the body, your body's going to burn that off first. So in simple terms, it kind of shuts down burning off carbs and fats. It's not 100%, but it's, to simplify things, it kind of does that. And then it's going to reduce your recovery time. It disrupts your sleep. It does a whole bunch of things that aren't good, where if we just look at alcohol on paper, it might not be too bad, like the few drinks you have, but then it's the lack of sleep and the next day where you're tired, groggy, you have cravings, and you want the regular like hangover foods, which are always greasy, high calorie, like burgers and a Bloody Mary and pancakes and eggs, and you're just like loading up on that stuff. So alcohol on paper, it's not good for you, but usually it's like you have alcohol plus pizza plus wings. Next day you're having a bunch of like greasy food. You're not making, nobody's drinking alcohol and then like, you know what I could go for late at night? A good salad with like no dressing on it, just like leafy greens and grilled chicken breasts. Like nobody says that.
No, that does not cut it. For example, I had a little bit of wine last night and I had a chocolate rice cake after that. And I was like, this is not, I was very responsible with what I had after, but I was legit sad. I was like, fine.
And if you had other temptations in the house, like there's a good
it would
chance
have gotten
you're
real
gonna go.
hairy.
Yeah. My wife was like that the other, we didn't, because we're traveling on Friday, we didn't get any like snacks. So my wife's like, I had a few glasses and she's like, there's nothing in this house to snack on. We don't have anything. It's like, yeah, it stopped her from snacking. She was also very grumpy about it.
Yeah, it's, the struggle is real. Or you're ordering like DoorDash or stopping by the drive-through and like those kinds of behaviors. But so we had a question. I posed a question in our Facebook community recently, and it was, can you lose weight while you're in a caloric deficit? And pretty much I think everybody said yeah, you could, or sorry, you could not lose weight while in a caloric deficit. So it's a completely like misunderstood topic, and the correct answer is no. If you're in a caloric deficit, you should be losing weight, but there's a lot that go with that topic, and it is kind of hard to understand. And I think there's a myriad of reasons why you think you're in a caloric deficit and you're not. Some of it is metabolic adaptation, some of it is tracking is not done correctly, some of it is over consuming fat sources that add up, because like Chris said, we have 9 calories per gram in fat sources, and if you're under tracking fats, you can easily eat more than you think that you're eating because the volume is low. Some of it is eating too little during the week and then like blowing it up on the weekends, but assuming that you're still in the caloric deficit. What do you guys normally see when we have people come to us, clients or not clients, that are experiencing some form of fat loss resistance, who think that they are in a caloric deficit but are not losing weight, not seeing, and by weight loss we mean both scale drop and inches lost. So it could be both or one or the other. If they are not experiencing either, we are not seeing any sort of body composition change. What is most likely happening?
I mean, what I've seen, you're trying to follow some plan or something a calculator spit out, which is only as accurate as you are. And then even within that, like it's like book smarts versus street smarts. Like calculator is going to spit out a number and it gives you a general idea of where you need to be. But a lot of people will be like, I follow calorie deficit. I plug this information in. That's what it should be. I'm in calorie deficit. And if you're not losing weight, you are not in a calorie deficit. So you might need less calories. You might need more protein. You're eating way too many carbs. There might be things you need to go in and adjust, or it might be that every couple of weeks you need to adjust because the body's dynamic. Because the other thing is like, I followed these calories and it worked for the first 4 weeks and now it's not working anymore. Tracking perfectly, still getting the same number of workouts, blah, blah. Well, sometimes we do actually need to cut calories a little bit as you lose weight. So that can also be like, just because you got these numbers doesn't mean that's going to be the numbers like you finish your cut with. You might need to adjust.
Yeah, I'm glad you brought that up because I think I spend my days talking to people in DMs or phone calls, and they want macros given to them, and they assume that this is just like a one size fits all, or like or an online macro calculator. And I guarantee mine are a lot more accurate than an online macro calculator because I'm going to ask some questions. But
Mm-hmm.
really, after results start to happen, or 6-8 weeks go by, and this is what we mean by metabolic adaptation, your body weight starts to go down, you don't need as many calories to create that deficit, so they have to be adjusted. And in addition to that, people experience a level of like dietary fatigue that after a chunk of time, and I usually see it in that 6-8 week, even with myself, where I'm like, I'm over this, like, and I might not be doing it intentionally, but I'm maybe tracking a little bit like less diligently, or I'm adding in a little bit more restaurant food, or like I am adding more olive oil without paying attention to it, those kinds of things. So how does that, Sarah, add up to like getting people out of their deficit, even if they're eating like quote unquote clean?
Eating clean is one of those, I think that's the most common thing, is when coming in and learning how to track macros, and people have just jumped into the online coaching space and they're like, I eat pretty well, but I think I have that conversation so many times a week. But these things add up very, very quickly. So for instance, let's say like you have healthy snacks at home. You don't snack on candy. You don't have like, it's generally fruits, nuts, all those cool things, which is so wonderful. Those are all great items to have in the house to snack on. But let's just say you just keep an open bowl of almonds on the table, and every time you walk by, you grab a couple and snack. And you're thinking, it's 4 almonds. That's not going to add up to anything. But if you do it every time you walk by your table, you are soon at an entire cup of almonds. Do you guys know how many calories is in a cup of almonds? It's way more than you think. It's a lot. It is a lot of calories. And, the same can be said for fruit. And so while these things aren't inherently bad, we're not actually paying attention to how much we're consuming. Erin and I were in the same day. We also used to do this with not only snacks, but with alcohol. Like for some reason in my head, I was like, my food is great. I'm hitting all my macros. I'm eating veggies. I'm eating chicken and asparagus and rice, but I was completely ignoring the fact that I also had 3 shots of tequila and 2 glasses of wine, where those are not imaginary calories that like float off into the ether. Those are real, those are countable, and those are taking you out of your so like in general, you can have a really great week, not touch any alcohol all week long, and go out with your friends on a Friday night, and if you're not aware of how much you're putting in, and then also, go out to eat with your friends, you're like late night pizza. I used to do like late night drive-through run, especially drinking and stuff like that. Those things add up. And what a lot of people will try to do is eat cleaner the next week and cut their calories even more. And that's just setting themselves further away from the goal. So not only are they over consuming calories at the end of the week, they're putting their body in a severe deficit. And so when they get to the end of the week and have those highly processed foods, have more alcohol, the inflammation comes up. And so like the scale is skyrocketing, you're not feeling great. And then when you look at Monday again and you're like, wow, to make up for all my partying, I have to eat 900 calories Monday through Friday. And that is not going to be sustainable, period. You're eventually just going to stop trying to diet. So that just like those small snacks, those small things, or even just like, I think we all have it in our head that we can see when our portions are off, but we can't. We are really good at human error. Human error is massive. Like even, I forget the percentage exactly, but there was a study done with even like professional athletes. There is still a margin of error with tracking. And so if we start to get lax, that margin just gets larger and larger and larger. And then we're just less and less accurate with what's going on. And it's easy to take yourself out of a slight deficit with just tiny snacks like that here and there.
Yeah, the study was with bodybuilding athletes, and the margin of error is 20%, which is huge. And so those people, like,
Do it for a living.
they bank on their physique being in top physical form and lean AF. So if they're off 20%, us like normal humans are probably off 30 or 40%. So if we aren't on top of it, it can easily turn into eating, if we have a 500 calorie deficit, if we're off by 400 calories every day, a 100-calorie deficit isn't really going to produce much fat loss, even if it is happening. And that's where we're not seeing the inches go down, we're not seeing the scale change. And so that's when we get that like case of the fuckets, where we're like, this isn't working for me, and then you self-sabotage. So it's usually kind of a situation like that, more so than like you're not in a deficit. You might still be in a slight one, we're just not seeing the results. So it's like you get two choices. You can just keep going, and over time, months go by and you probably will see results, or we can be a little bit more diligent about our tracking methods when we want to lose body fat, and then spend time in maintenance in order to take back that time, go out and have the Friday night wine and pizza night or whatever. And you might be able to fit that into a deficit depending on your current body composition and the level of leanness that you want to achieve. But it's dependent, like different for each person. So Chris, can you speak on that a little bit? Because I think people get confused. If you have 100 pounds to lose versus if you have 10 pounds to lose, what is that like level of difficulty change?
So I like to, like, when we're talking of the extremes with weight loss, I like to kind of use the example of you're going to lose a percent of your body weight. So someone who says, like, have 100 pounds to lose, you might be 300, 350 pounds. That person's going to lose a lot faster because it's a smaller percentage. So if they lose 10 pounds in a week, well, that percentage really, it's like 3% of their body weight versus what would that be for a 150-pound person who needs to lose like 5 or 10 pounds? Like, you're not going to lose that. Also, as we get leaner and leaner, it becomes more and more difficult as our bodies want to fight us for getting leaner, especially if our bodies kind of have like, there's not really a set point theory, but there's this area your body likes to be in. I believe it's once you lose like 10 or 15% of your body weight that you've been at for a while, your body kind of fights back a little bit. And it fights back by, one, lowering your metabolism some, but it's also going to make food taste better. You're going to think about food more often. You're going to have lower energy levels from the lower metabolism. So you're less likely to work out hard. You're more likely to like chill out on the couch. Like, you're less likely to start a project randomly in your house. Like, oh, I'm going clean. It's more like, I'm exhausted after leg day. Let me just chill out and watch Netflix for the next 3 hours. Well, you're not burning calories during that time. So your body's also going to, as you get closer and closer to your goal, fight you a little bit. And that's why you see with bodybuilders where they're cutting calories, they're also like purposely ramping up their cardio to levels that are unsustainable for most people. But then on the back end, there's like a whole bunch of issues if they don't keep that up.
Yeah. I like how you brought up thinking about food all the time. And I think if you don't mind, chat a little bit about reasons why you probably shouldn't be in a deficit. And this happened to me. I tried to do a prep last spring, and I was under a lot of stress. That I was stressed with the business. I was stressed with my personal life. I had a friend dying of cancer. I was going to visit her frequently to make sure that I saw her. A lot of things going on. And at the same time, I was like, yeah, I think it's a great idea to do this extreme bodybuilding prep. Well, it wasn't. Spoiler alert. And I think I was like 3 weeks in, and I did the first 3 weeks really well. I was on point. And then by week 4, all I could think about was food. That was it. I would go on DoorDash. I was in Tucson seeing my friend, and I was on DoorDash there trying to get something to eat, even though I had brought my meal preps with me, because that's what you do in a bodybuilding prep. And I was like, well, maybe I can find just something different that will align with my goals. Well, of course, what I found was like pizza and barbecue and all these things. And not to say that I necessarily like overate them, but I was like obsessed with
Mm-hmm.
the food idea. I couldn't stop looking at food menus. And that's when I realized that like I was not ready at that time, especially for a prep, but really for a deficit in general. Like I needed to go back to a less stressed state. So what are your thoughts on different things? Like there's a lot of people that will go into a diet and get food obsessed pretty quickly, and that leads to overconsumption, that leads to binging, that leads to a bad relationship with food. And luckily I know myself enough to be like, you got to take yourself out of this, but I had to learn that, and most people don't understand those symptoms are negative.
Yeah. So the funniest example I have of this is when I was do- doing a bodybuilding prep with my brother. We were obsessed with watching like Man versus Food, if you remember when that was on, and a bunch of
Oh
those
my
like
God.
competition food things. And my brother would literally sit there like every meal just watching it. And our roommates were like,
Yeah.
this is like self torture. He's like, it looks so good while eating like bland rice and chicken. And then after the prep was over, he's like, why did I watch this? This is gross. Like I'm not enjoying it. So more recently, I did an experiment last year with my diet. I was because a lot of people try to lose weight as fast as possible. So I was at the end of my diet. And I basically maintained like a 500 calorie deficit the whole time. Not crazy. So I was like, last 2 weeks, I'm going to do 1,000 calorie deficit just to be a guinea pig. Sarah's eyes get big. Yeah. So I went backwards during that time with my results. So all of a sudden I was obsessed with food. I couldn't look forward to the next meal. Like the next meal couldn't come soon enough. My energy tanked. I was more likely to grab little bites here and there. I was less likely to track. My energy was crap. I had to take like naps in the middle of the day. It was miserable. So like most of the diet, so my maintenance is 28. So most of my diet was at 23. I shot that down to 1,800. It was
Wow.
terrible.
It's very low.
Absolutely awful. Yeah, it's really low and literally did not get results during that. I went backwards. I actually gained weight during that time because I couldn't maintain 1,800. I was like just overshooting. Like I would do one day and then the next day like overshoot it. So not recommended because you're just going to obsess. But a lot of people will be like, I don't know what to do. 1,200 calorie diet, go. And if your maintenance is like
Yeah.
22, which isn't crazy for women,
That's what
men
mine about
definitely.
is. Yeah.
Yeah. So men, that's kind of standard. For women, anyone who's in shape, like that's not nothing crazy, or you're going to be close to it. Most women I find are like at least 1,900. So you're going to like cut out 1,000 calories and go to almost to 1,200. Like you're going to fail. Like at some point, it might not be week 1 or 2, but week 6 through 8, when that burnout starts to kick in, where it's no longer fun, all the excitement of like, ooh, I'm starting something new. It's a new phase. That's all gone away by week 6 and 8. And now you're like grinding it out for the next couple weeks until it's like the end. Like that's where you fall off.
Absolutely. I think
Yeah.
it also just like knocks into this crazy mindset where, I mean, what I generally try to avoid just across the space is just going, oh, I'm not there yet, take more away. Oh, I'm not there yet, take more away. And I always want to look back at it and go, okay, what can we add back in? Because if you keep perpetuating that this health journey is going to be constantly taking things away, you kind of like put yourself in this negativity bias where it's like, I still have X amount to lose. I still have X amount to do. I'm still so far away. Instead of focusing on all of the things that you're gaining, adding vegetables in, adding protein in, understanding that calories and macronutrients are made to fuel you. Like I always try to take somebody and mirror it. They're like, well, I did so badly today, which means I have to cut tomorrow. And I'm like, well, why don't you look at it as I consumed extra calories today, which means I have the opportunity to move more tomorrow. I gave myself more fuel. I put more fuel in the tank. And that way we can kind of start to erase this idea that to achieve our health and body composition goals, we have to to take away from what we're currently doing. 9 times out of 10, adding healthy things in is going to be way more conducive to your goals than taking any macros away. I mean, like, case in point, I've spent the last, I mean, after my first initial fat loss phase, I haven't done another one. I did one shred for like research purposes, and that was horrible, but I've done most of my changing over the last almost 4 years, y'all, in maintenance or higher.
Yeah.
And like, I just want everybody to know that just because you're not technically in a deficit, that does not mean your body will not change.
Yeah.
While you might not see those like big serotonin boost scale drops, your body's going to change really good, like make amazing changes for the better. You're going to improve your metabolism, improve your relationship with food. You're going to be able to actually move your body and have energy left over. Like, your workout should be not like, they shouldn't be taking absolutely every ounce of energy out of you. Will your muscles feel fatigued? Absolutely. But you should still have some energy on the back end to go home, cook dinner, hang out with your, family, or whatever time you work out. It's not like, when we do this, it's about adding health in, not about taking joy and happiness and positivity out of your life, which is what you're doing with what, like 900 calorie plans, 1200 calorie plans. You guys, those exist out there, and they're glorified. And it's really, really scary to see.
So what I don't think's talked about enough is how your diet might affect you outside of the gym and outside of weight loss. If you have brain fog, how's that going to affect work? If you're moody all the time, how's that going to affect your relationships? If your libido drops, will that affect your relationships with your significant other? Like, those things all happen when you go on severe calorie restrictions. Like, your hormones get all out of whack. You're hangry all the time. That can affect your personal life, and it's not talked about. And people just think, oh, I'll just cut. And I've worked with so many women where it's like, they're crazy when they're low calorie, and then you give calories, you're like, oh, all of a sudden it's like, this is the actual you. This is you. You're not like super moody and super stressed out. Your stress, man, you can't handle as much stress when you're on a low calorie diet because it's stressing your body out. So like,
so true.
Little thing happens and you just like sets you off. You're like, oh my God, I can't handle it today. Like, oh, fuck all this. Versus like, it might just be minor.
Yeah. And lots of things suffer, like sleep, and that makes it even worse because then you're like even crankier. All these things are occurring simultaneously, and people are blaming their hormones, they're blaming their metabolism, which partially is correct. But by eating more, we can change and fix all of those things with like just one. I mean, it's not really a minor tweak because it's really hard to wrap your brain around eating more when you've been taught your entire life to eat less. But once you like trust through the process and eat a little bit more, it like life becomes livable again. And all of a sudden you're putting on muscle, you feel better, you're losing body fat at the same time in a way that doesn't even seem like it's that hard. And I was talking to a new client about that yesterday, and she's really emotional already because she was like a strict keto for a long time and she never allowed herself carbs. She's starting to eat carbs again, and she has all this energy and her body is shifting, and she's like, I can't believe that I allowed myself to be treated that way by myself for so long. Like, I didn't think I deserved it. And she was like, I never even really got to the body composition I wanted. I would see the scale drops from no carbs, but I still didn't like how I looked. And now I'm starting to look better and I'm eating carbs and I feel good at the same time. It's like everybody deserves all of those things in conjunction with each other.
Oh, absolutely. And I also think that everybody deserves to look at like just food as an array of, this is all stuff that I can enjoy. There's nothing that's like not on the table. If we can learn how to like really balance things out, get you in a place where you don't feel out of control around food. I think that's like, I've been seeing a lot of memes go around lately where people are like, oh my God, I was doing so good with my diet. I've been going to the gym. I've been doing all this. And then those dang Girl Scouts like ruined it. They were parked outside the grocery store. And I was like, why can't you have a Girl Scout cookie? Like, what actually is wrong with that? I don't like, I want to try to take this entire narrative around cutting carbs, cutting fat, cutting anything. Like, where did we even get these ideas to just start like taking things out of our diet? When has that ever But like that's like driving a car and be like, wow, I don't really like the way this drives. What happens if we just take all of the nuts out of the car? Like your car will fall apart.
Yeah.
So why do we treat ourselves that way? It's like it's so silly.
I heard oil's not essential for your car to move, so
Yeah, you don't need it.
Right.
Or
You don't need that. Or gas or
Yeah.
tires. Who needs those?
Tires aren't essential.
Yeah, it's wild what we do to ourselves. And there's like it's actually better to have a little bit of something you love every single day fitted in your calorie goal, because when you're like the Girl Scout cookie example, what if you had one serving of Girl Scout cookies every single day? You're in a calorie deficit at 1800 calories, you want to lose 10 pounds, whatever, and it's working. Then you're not like eating 1200 calories, never letting yourself have a Girl Scout cookie, and then when the Girl Scouts come around, you eat an entire box or an entire sleeve of cookies. That used to be me, is I would like never let myself have a cookie, and then I'd go to the store after a bad day and be like, I'm treating myself, I had a bad day, and then before I knew it, 10 cookies were gone. And so like if I would have had one every single day, I would have had, I would have fit them really well into my calorie goals or my fat loss goals or wherever I was at. But I never did that. And then I would have 10 and eat, 800 calories in cookies just like in one single sitting.
And then
Yep.
spin yourself into the guilt that comes with that too. I had a conversation with a few clients this week actually that came in and they were like, yeah, I really messed up my calories on this day. And I messed up. I'm not allowed to do this anymore, blah, blah, blah. And I was like, hold on, stop right there. Do you feel like that the reason why you lost control during this specific high calorie meal was because you didn't let yourself have one over the past several weeks? I was like, it's okay to need a diet break. It's okay to, wake up in the morning and be like, do you want to know what would really sound like what would be really good is a big old burger and a big old mess of fries. And there isn't anything wrong with having that. As long as it's like, you have your serving, you have your meal out, you plan for it. A lot of the time, that's what we will do as coaches. When our clients come to us and they're like, yeah, I'm dragging. I'm not super motivated by this at all. I need a break. We're like, yeah, go have an untracked meal where you eat a little bit closer to maintenance. Throughout the week, you're still going to be in general within a calorie deficit. While the results might not like jump as far down, or you might kind of be stagnant in that, arguably it's a lot easier on your mental health to go, okay, I just needed this week to get my mind right, have the food that I was craving, and now I feel more confident in going back into my plan. And we'd rather you do that than try to go as long as possible without being bad. And then when you finally open that door, it's like opening up like the dam, like an entire like 8 weeks worth of cravings come flooding. And then that's when you're like 800 calories over your limit and you're going like wild crazy. And then the guilt the next day, and you either over exercise to try to make up for it, or you say, screw it, I'm doing it again because I'll start again on Monday. I would rather just say, hey, let's just open this door a little bit, take the little snack out that we need, close it again until you need that mental break again. It's like, it's a way for us to get out of working in such major extremes. And I think that's a really, really big weakness within any plan that has kind of come up before, one-on coaching kind of delve into the space, is that we were working off of these huge extremes. You're either like going out to eat every day or you're eating like a rabbit, and there was no like mixture, when really we're happiest when I have some healthy meals and some that are a little bit more calorically dense. I'm just happier that way. And we want to teach you guys how to kind of like live in this middle area. A lot of body composition change can happen there, and you're not going to be so miserable doing it.
Yeah, let's touch on maintenance for a minute if you don't mind, because I think people don't realize how you can utilize that to get closer to your goals. And it doesn't have to be a huge maintenance phase. Let's say you're in fat loss and you're having a high stress week. I have a client who's going to see her dad who is very ill. She's been in fat loss for the past few weeks. She's doing really well, but we're bringing her up to maintenance for the week so that she can accommodate travel. She can be in like be able to just visit with her dad and her family without the stressor of a deficit and having to like meticulously track. And I think what we don't consider with maintenance, and I've told people this a lot and their minds are blown. I'm like, what you can do is, instead of being in a deficit 7 days a week, if you need a break, go up to maintenance for one of those days, because then you're in a deficit for 6 days and at maintenance one day. Yeah, it could be a little bit slower, the fat loss, but you're still, the average is still in the deficit.
Yeah, that's the whole idea behind like calorie cycling. If you follow
Yeah.
like that kind of approach,
Mhm.
but with Sarah's idea, like sometimes just do an untracked meal. Like if you go over your calories, everyone's so focused like day to day. Like, oh, if I eat like one meal on Wednesday night, that ruins the progress for the next like 7 days. Like our bodies also function like week to week. Like in a given week, if you're eating, hypothetically for math, to make math easy in my head, if you're eating 2,000 calories a day in a deficit, you're going to be eating 14,000 calories per day. So if you have one meal that goes over by 400 calories, the average over the week is what? Maybe 50 calories extra per day. Like it's hardly anything. So instead of freaking out about one meal, like why don't we just like not enjoy that thing and give yourself a mental break? Or to your point, Erin, like you can go up to maintenance for one day, but over the course of the week, you're still in a deficit.
Right.
Yeah, exactly. I think people, we think for some reason in our body composition and our health journey, we tend to go in black or white, and it's just all a gray zone. It doesn't have to be one way or the other way, and that's why we program week to week instead of month to month or 6 month blocks or 3 month blocks, because our lives change week to week. And like I said, with my client who's going to see her sick dad, that is the priority at the moment. It's not body composition. And it's okay to have a mindset to still prioritize your health when you're out of town. And even in not as serious of a situation, let's say you go on vacation in the middle of a fat loss phase, and you don't want to come back at a higher, body fat percentage, we can go up to maintenance while you're on your trip. We can get steps in, but you can still enjoy a margarita and meals out and all those things. Or we just kind of let it go for the week and come back and just jump right back on plan. There's options. We talk to each individual about that. And that's why, like, getting yourself out of it has to only be this extreme diet that I don't want to follow unless I'm on a diet, or like, I'm just going to go all out and eat 17 boxes of Girl Scout cookies. Like, the gray area is where we thrive and where we live, and where people keep their body composition in a place that they like, even if you have a little bit of body fat to lose. Like for me, for example, I'm in fat loss. It's a slight deficit. I have some body fat I want to lose, but even before that, I wasn't unhappy with my body composition. I'm just, at this point, I'm just being picky.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Absolutely. We're just changing things because we can at this point. I'm like, yeah, this is it. Well, it's a fun thing to do. Eventually it kind of like becomes our hobby when you're just like doing fitness all the time. But I mean, and like you guys, these maintenance little dips or, increases coming back up to maintenance, when your overall goal is fat loss, this can really, really help with those of you who suffer from, big swing in symptoms surrounding your period. So, ladies out there, PCOS, dealing with those things. It's very common for me to bring ladies up to maintenance around their cycle, just so that they have, a little bit extra energy during that time. They don't feel so drained, because really what your body is kind of telling you with these highly inflammatory responses is that it doesn't have enough to take care of you. And so it's not uncommon for me to be, and everybody freaks out. And I'm like, well, let's bring you up to maintenance. This like, well, they're like, well, no, I'm okay. I can stay in a deficit. It's totally fine. And I'm like, I'm not doubting that you're okay in your deficit. But what I was like, your body, dips in energy, experiencing highly painful cramps, not being able to get yourself out of bed, keeping yourself in a calorie deficit is just going to worsen those things. Being eating underneath your maintenance of what your true kind of maintenance is, what your body is willing to burn, puts it in a stress state. It's like, where am I going to get this energy from? I need this to survive. And so if you're also dealing with being ill or being on your period or whatever that is, the best way to keep you going towards fat loss is to bring you up to maintenance so that your body isn't in this constant stressed out fight or flight mode. So there's just something to keep in mind, because I mean, a good amount of us ladies are like, what do you mean you're going to bring up my calories once a month? And I'm like, well, yeah, if you're experiencing severe period symptoms, it's just something that you might need to address.
Yeah, it's true. And well, I mean, if you are going to have cravings anyway, you might as well lean into that. Usually we find that if I do some calorie cycling with my clients that are a little bit more resistant to fat loss, and we usually find that after the week at higher calories, they drop. And the reason why is stress reduction. They're not thinking about it as much. They have a little bit more fluidity. They might even be in a deficit still because they're moving more, they have more energy. It gives you a little time to like mentally reset, go on date night, take your kids out for ice cream, those kinds of things that we want to do, because life is worth living. It's not just worth like fighting for a look. And I would argue that the fighting for the look is what's holding most people back, is
I
not
agree.
just let go of certain things and allow yourself to have food, allow yourself to have fun. And if you're prioritizing things like your movement, like your protein, like your fiber, you're going to get there. And you're going to get there, it'll seem slow, but like fast forward a year, it'll seem like so fast, as opposed to what most people do and what I used to do, which is like these spurts, 30 days, 60 days. I would lose it, gain it back, start over again. And I get to the end of the year and after the holidays. And of course, during the holidays, we're not dieting. So I would be like right back to where I started in January again. So, like, yes, those spurts might have like created a faster drop on the scale, but they led me right back to where I started the year before, over and over and over again.
And it becomes harder and harder to get back into the system. Like, like you get
Mhm.
so discouraged with the try again, the try again, the try again. But then, I mean, we had to get really honest about, like, I wasn't actually changing my methods. It was all a severe calorie deficit with a different name and a different face on it, and I just needed to realize that I didn't need a deficit. I needed more nutrients.
The other
Yeah.
thing with maintenance is it's a good time for your body to repair itself. Like if you've been working
Yeah.
out hard, your tendons, ligaments, even your muscles, like they need time to recover, more time than we usually give them. And they need building blocks to do that, which is calories.
Yeah,
So
exactly.
Yes.
you need that. You need a lot of people tend to be deficient in certain vitamins, and that gets harder and harder to hit your goals if you're in a calorie deficit. You're eating less food, so it's harder unless you're eating like kale and liver for every single day, which is sounds terrible. Um,
No,
no, no, thanks.
No.
no.
Um, no. So unless you're doing that, it when you add calories in, you can, which might give you more energy. You're going to get micros in. It also, I've had a few clients where they're in a calorie deficit and they're like, I feel like this is going to be in my life forever. It's like, no, no, you're doing this because you want to lose weight. And when we go to maintenance, and sometimes it's just like seeing like, hey, maintenance, all of a sudden calorie tracking is a little bit easier because you have more energy and you don't need to be as strict. So you can have bigger portions because all of a sudden you get 500 calories extra in a day or more or less, depending on what your deficit is. Oh, that's amazing. Okay, I see the light at the end of the tunnel now. I
Yeah.
see this is a temporary thing. I'm going to go into to lose weight. It's kind of going to suck no matter what because it's a calorie deficit. And then I'm going to go to maintenance and life's going to be much easier, but I'm choosing to go into this deficit.
Mhm.
Yeah, exactly. And knowing that there's an end in sight, I think is really important too. Like, most people are like, what? Especially if you have a little bit more to lose, you're like, well, can I lose 100 pounds in 3 months? Absolutely not. But like, you can lose, let's say you lose 15 or 20, and then you take a break and you maintain it. And then you go back into a fat loss phase, lose another 20, take a break and maintain it. So then you're down 40 pounds. It doesn't seem as hard, your body is happier and healthier. And that continues over and over and over again until you are at the body composition that you want to be in and you already know how to maintain it. I had a question from a lady a while back, and I never will forget it. And she's like, well, Sarah and I talk about our journeys, and we both lost about 30 to 40 pounds, and she's like, well, what if you need to lose 80? And I was like, well, you need to do the same things. Like, you just need to lose 1 pound 80 times. You don't need to like think about the end result. You need to understand how to maintain the 1 pound, do that again till it's 2 pounds. And that's where I think people kind of get stuck on the fat loss phase and not the maintenance phase, whereas like maintenance is really the most important phase to be in, understanding your food environment there. And really, if you learn how to eat well, your fat loss phase looks a lot like your maintenance phase. We're just taking out a little bit more of the fun stuff. Like,
Yeah.
instead of 4 glasses of wine a week, maybe you have two. And instead of 4 Girl Scout cookies with lunch, maybe you have one. Those kinds of things that are like, it doesn't even seem hard anymore. It's just like a slight manipulation in those more fun foods. You keep protein the same, you keep fiber the same. We're at a higher caloric range, so you're not cutting at 1200 anymore. You're cutting at 18 or 1900 and still losing about a pound a week, but maintaining your muscle mass. So you're like metabolically healthier, you're happier, you can eat out once a week and maintain your deficit. Those kinds of things that like make life a lot better and easier, and you get to the body composition that you want to be in.
When you
Right.
get to that higher level, it's I view it just kind of like pulling levers. Like, okay, we're in maintenance, we're just like bump up portion sizes of most things.
Yeah.
Calorie deficit, we just pull back a little bit. The food stays the same. Like my meals during a calorie deficit versus a maintenance phase or a building phase, it's the same food. It's just the portion sizes change. Or I might opt for slightly more filling things like whole wheat pasta during a fat loss phase versus regular pasta during a maintenance phase because I get smaller amounts, so I want it to be more filling. But the meal itself, it's still pasta with meat and veggies. It's the same freaking meal.
Yep.
Yeah.
Nothing changed. So if you can take what you're already eating and just adjust it, maybe it for most people it's more protein, more veggies, probably cut back a little bit on the fat. Just do that. It's much easier. And people's brains when they look through like when I look through their journals and it's like, okay, we're just gonna just keep the same recipe, just do these adjustments. They're like mind blown.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They
Exactly.
think it's this huge, massive change. And I'm like, no, it really doesn't have to. One less ounce of, a few less grams of this sauce that you put on this, a smaller portion of brown rice. We're not really changing the actual food environment very much at all. I mean, there are a couple of things that I no longer keep in the house when fat loss is the idea. Like, I just don't buy gluten-free Oreos just because I would rather use those calories for things that are going to help me feel fuller for longer. It's not that I can never have Oreos again. It's that those 2 Oreos that cost me about 140 calories. Yes, I have memorized the macronutrients for gluten-free Oreos. 2 Oreos, 140 calories. That those calories are more meaningful to me to get in a couple ounces of chicken so that my protein is on, so that I'm fuller for most of the day. Again, it's not that the actual items are bad. It's that I make this choice where I would rather have that 140 calories in chicken so that I can, build my biceps or whatever, insert goal here. It's not that I'm never having Oreos. It's that I want to spend them differently. It's like, going into the store, your mom gave you $20 and she was like, you have, pick what you need to get. And instead of like you want to go and buy like the big shiny toy when even though like what your mom gave you the $20 for was like to go get like notebooks and stuff like that, and you show up at school the next day and you're like, I got Legos. And your teacher's like, where is your notebook? It's like that's what we're doing with our calories. Like there's just other things that we'd rather spend it on that just are a little bit more conducive to what your goals are. And like just kind of diving into that macronutrient space, learning a little bit more about how those things balance will make you more successful in your overall goal of body composition change. And it's like way less about you can never have these certain items again, just more what is the goal, when can you have them, and how we make that flex. And really, I mean, the only way that I really learned how to do that was with a coach. There was no way that I was going to be able to learn that through, like just getting macros from a calculator.
Well, no, and I think the important thing to understand, and I was going to bring this up as our last kind of touching point, was all diets create a calorie deficit. So there's no magic in keto or IF or anything that lead to fat loss, but also that having somebody to help guide you through it is pivotal, because we eating more is really the secret to, I think, all of our success and eating more overall. And that's really, really hard for most people who come from a chronic dieting background, or especially if you're, over 30 and fat loss becomes a little bit harder because you've been dieting for so long and you have lifestyle variables in there, kids, more travel, more stressful work environment, those kinds of things. So having somebody navigate that with you it's not just us telling you what to do. It is in fact us teaching you how to implement those things into your lifestyle. And that's what I think people don't really understand. It's more of like a learning experience than anything else. And that was so beneficial for me, because like I transitioned from working in a crazy restaurant environment. I had a coach through that, and into like working from home. And you would think that the restaurant would actually be harder, but when I was busy all day at the restaurant, and I, not to say I'm not busy all day working from home, but like the fridge ain't far away and nobody's paying attention to me, and I'm not taking tables, and I'm not greeting guests at the host stand and making cocktails. So like it was easier for me to start to snack, and those like little bites and tastes and stuff started to add up. So having somebody to understand all like the variables of my life and teach me how to live within it. So like, for example, when I was really snacky, I came from like like a pretty extreme diet with bodybuilding, and then I was like, oh, I can eat all this food again. So I would just like grab a handful of pretzels or dried mangoes or whatever, and before I knew it, those little snacks, those little handfuls were adding up. So shit, like my coach at the time suggested I start making like pre baggies of snacks. So like however many were in one or two servings in grams, and they were already ready on top of my refrigerator in my cabinet or whatever. So like I knew how many were in one bag. So even if I grabbed one, I could be snacky, but when the bag was gone, I just tracked that. And little tricks like that are game changers that most people don't think about. And you think that you have to throw one mango on the scale every single time you want a bite of one, and that is tedious when you're talking about tracking or fat loss or whatever. But it's not when you make 5 of those baggies on the weekends or 10 of those baggies, and then it's just done. There's 100 grams of mango or whatever in each bag.
Mhm.
Yep. Make life easier.
Oh,
Yes, yes.
gosh, tracking. I think once you get over the hurdle of actually learning how to physically do it, it has made my life so much easier, because it's like it took food, which was this massive topic that I had no idea how to tackle. Like, no one taught me anything. That at least nothing that stuck in here. Teachers out there, I guess if somehow you land on this podcast and someone's like, Sarah, I totally taught you that, you're gonna have to remind me because I don't remember it. But like, no one really taught me how to eat. But then once I figured out like this is the amount of food that makes me feel good, I was able to just slot in different things, and like food became massively uncomplicated again, which is so great. I get to my meals now and I go, okay, in general, this is kind of what I'm behind on. I know exactly what I'm going to pick up. And since I like kind of eat like this normally, this is the most magical part, guys. I actually know what I want to eat when I go to a restaurant. Like, I am able to like actually go in and be like, man, it's been so long since I've had these tacos. But like when I was just going out to eat all the time and I was using it as a way to, give myself the feel goods, because I wasn't eating enough in my normal day to day. So I was always tired and always felt control around food. I would get to a restaurant, but I was like, I've eaten at this restaurant 8 times in the past 3 weeks. The menu items aren't fun to me anymore. I'm just like, I mean, I guess I'll get this and I guess I'll get a shot of tequila. Like, what we want is to, like, we don't want you to feel that way around food. Food is literally your life. It is literally the building blocks of what you do every day, how you feel. And we don't want it to be this big daunting task. We want you to fully understand what macronutrients are going to make you feel the best, what means you need to operate in to be able to take yourself where you want to go with your health and with your body composition, and not have it just be this, I don't know what to eat, I don't know how to do this, and just get some control back. And I think that it's something that we can all stand to feel a little bit more of, just feel a little bit more in control over our day to day and how we feel and what we put in our bodies.
Absolutely.
Yeah, totally. It's autonomy, and we all want that, right? So we
Yeah.
made it to the end of this hour. I hope that this was super helpful for you guys. If you like what you're hearing, we're going to make more, but we'd love it if you would subscribe. And thank you so much, guys, for this conversation.
Yes, thank you. And 5 stars. I mean, we're greedy,
Yes.
but I'm going to ask for it.